The Hot Docs Podcast Festival is happening right now, pulling together some of the biggest names and brains in audio storytelling. Now, one of those brains belongs to Sean Rameswaram, who hosts Today Explained, is joining us right now in studio. Welcome to the TV side. That's your face. Good to
Thanks so much for having me here at the former Speaker's Corner. Oh my gosh.
I know, we were just talking about that in memories because you are from Toronto. You live in the States. When did you leave? At 16 years old?
2001.
2001.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, welcome back and
Thanks
welcome
so much.
home. Today Explained. Explain today to me.
Today Explained. Oh, you want to know? Well, I'm off the news right now. I'm in Toronto. Today we're going to explain streaming. There are so many streaming services coming out. Disney's got one. HBO's got a new one. Apple's got one. Netflix is, of course, taking over the world. And they're just all coming out at once. And we want to know what's going to be on these services. How much will they cost? Do I need to sign up for all of them? Is that just the same as cable? Is this the same thing we used to have but new? And who's going to win the coming streaming wars? That's
who's going to win the wars. And this is what you do with Today Explained. I mean, you take sometimes very complicated news issues, you break it down, and it kind of feels like, hey, pull up a chair next to me. Let's just have a conversation about the bare essentials of this news story, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like, what would the news sound like if it was told in a more human way? If it sounded like your friend trying to figure out the news with some really smart, expert-type people. So that news could be, sure, about U.S. politics. It could be about Canadian politics. It could be about streaming. It could be about TikTok, the new app that all the kids are using.
All the kids these days,
All
right?
the kids.
I was listening to one of your podcasts this week, and you were talking to a Trump supporter who has gone to, his 18th rally, and one of the questions you posed to him, and you do this in such a relatable way.
It's the Canadian in me.
Is that it? Is that what it is? But you were challenging him on what would it take to not support Trump, right?
Yeah.
And he was saying, well, no, I would always support Trump regardless. And you pushed back a little bit, and you did get him to change his mind. What was that moment like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just when we asked him why he supports Donald Trump so feverishly, his answer was just, it was kind of the talking points. It's because, we should lock up Hillary and all this stuff. And there's no real conversation to have there. But President Trump famously said once, my supporters are so loyal that I could shoot a guy on Fifth Avenue and get away with it.
I remember that.
So I just posed that question to him. What about this thing the president said once? When we played the clip, If he shot someone on Fifth Avenue, would you still support him? And he kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit and said, oh, no, I wouldn't support my own father. If he shot someone on Fifth Avenue. It's a really grim question to ask, and I wasn't a big fan of asking him or pushing him on that, but the president said it. And, I just wanted to find out, especially right now where there's this impeachment inquiry going on, where is your line as a Trump supporter? This guy doesn't give a whit about the impeachment inquiry, but he did say, murder, that's my line. And we just wanted to figure out if that line still exists in American politics or if it's disappeared.
And that was a good way to go about it. It was really fascinating, that conversation.
Thank you.
Let's talk about that moment when you were offered your own show, to host your own show.
Sure.
Your first response was what, fear?
Well, this particular show was fear because
Why?
So it's a Vox entity, VOX, not FOX people, and they said, "Do you want to host this Daily News podcast?" And I thought, well, okay, if I do this, I'm competing with the New York Times and NPR from an organization that doesn't have a real history of making big blockbuster podcasts. So you're going to go up against the biggest competition in the country, in the world, with you and probably a scrappy team of 4 or 5 people.
Right.
And it was terrifying.
And so how did you get over that hurdle?
I just said, sure, I'm going to do it. And the reason I said yes was because I thought, if I say no, and then I listen to the show, which I will, and I hear someone else do it, and it's not very good, I'm going to be like, I should have done that. I could have done it better. So I thought, let's give it a shot. And here we are 2 years later still doing it, so it worked out.
And amazingly well, too.
Yeah,
okay, can we do some rapid fire?
Sure, rapid fire,
Okay,
let's do it.
favorite podcast to listen to other than Today Explained?
Whew. There's a show that came out this year called 10 Things That Scare Me. And it came out from my former employer, WNYC, New York Public Radio. But that's not why I love it. It's just a really earnest human show about the things that freak us out. And it's not presented in some, here's a story about, my whole life. It's just quick. It's like a 10-minute podcast. And it's kind of like a listicle. It's just,
oh, that's cool.
Spiders. My kids...
with no explanation.
My kids not loving me. They explain every third or fourth thing.
Yeah.
But it's really beautifully designed, and it's a really easy show to listen to, and it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. One more. I'll do one more for you. Hardest part about putting together a podcast, really quickly.
A daily podcast, the hardest thing about there's just a million creative decisions to make when you're putting out a podcast because it's going to compete with stuff that people worked on for months, sometimes years. So you're in the super competitive space where things sound really good, but you have to get it out by 4 o'clock. And I'm losing my hair.
The deadline looms. All right, Sean, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
We are out of time at this point. You can find Today Explained, the podcast, on the iHeartRadio Canada app and, of course, the website as well.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.